be loud and I'll be quiet.
Hi, Emily. So I've looked over your lesson plans and here's some feedback for you. In general, these are very well done. They're very well thought through, and I appreciated the deep level scaffolding that you did in some particular areas with this. And so let's go through and I'll point those areas out to you so that you can continue to replicate that kind of a lesson plan in your future assignments. Okay. So, whoops, scrolled too far. All right. So the evidence outcomes that you chose are well aligned with this lesson plan, especially right in this section here, developing the topics with well-chosen facts and introducing the topics and organizing complex ideas. So I'm glad to see that you're choosing good evidence outcomes because it demonstrates to me that you have, a growing level of comfort in working with some of those standards. The rest of your desired results area is well aligned, and I like that your students will be able to is aligned with your students will understand section, so that what the kids are doing is very consistent with what you're asking them to think about as well, instead of splitting those two in half. Your formative assessment in this one is a tiny bit worrisome. You have individual checks for understanding during independent practice, but that assumes that you would be able to walk around to every single student and individually assess them as they're practicing during one class period. And just logistically speaking, I think that would be very difficult. So the idea is not a bad one, but think about your time frame and how long it would take you to do that. One thing that you could push yourself to do in future lesson plans is to put, let me scroll a little bit, is to put the number of minutes that you plan for each section, so that way you would see how little time or how much time you'd have for each part. All right. I think your hooks are well done. I think I love the fact that you're starting with something that the kids already have an interest in. It demonstrates to me that you're really thinking about who your students are as people and how to bring them into the skills that you want them practicing. In this section, okay, so you model the Venn diagram very well for them right here. And then you ask them to continue with that Venn diagram, and I think that's really well done and a very reasonable request on your part because of the fact that you not only modeled what the structure itself would look like, but you put a few examples in there and did a think aloud for why you were choosing those examples. So I think that's all very nicely done. In your second lesson plan, again, your whole desired results section is well done, and I like that your essential questions for the content area contains that prompt that you're asking them to think about all along. Nice alignment, your students will understand and will be able to section. In this case, your assessment, your thesis generation handout is very well done. I'm very impressed with that. I like the stair-stepping that it does to help kids move from a topic to an actual thesis. Nicely done. All right. I also appreciate the fact that you have in your learning activities in each one of these lesson plans a list of things that you need set up before the class even begins. That's really helpful, especially when you get busy teaching 7-8 classes a day. In your hook and context section, again, you're demonstrating that you really know your students, where they live, what kinds of things they think about. And so I like that you're demonstrating the skills with something that's so relevant to them from pop culture, and that they can take that exact same skill then and watch you model it specifically with, in this case, their thesis generation handout or the content that you want them working with for the day. Your transitions are very smooth. In your third lesson plan, again, desired results section looks very good, nicely aligned. Excuse me. Your formative assessment, having a ticket out the door, I think is well done. I think you can manage that easily and then be able to check at the end of the day which kids are going to need some more individual attention the next day. Your differentiation and modification over in this section here demonstrates that you're thinking about students who are reluctant writers, and that's good that you've got them on your radar. We'll continue to talk about some of those strategies in class. All right. Again, with your your setup that you're giving the kids time in class to write, and that's one of those things that we talked about. It's a hard thing to fit in, and we feel pressured to not do that sometimes, and yet it's very important. So I was glad to see a large chunk of this lesson plan being that the kids had time to work on their drafts while they're in class with you and you're right there to help them. For your revision lesson plan, I see that you specifically have them working through one of the strategies that we used in class, but I also see that you scripted that out very well, and that helps me to understand what kind of a teacher you want to be a little bit more, seeing what kinds of specific words you would prefer to be using with your kids. And so I see that you're doing that and that you have them set up in the computer lab, so it's very easy for them to take your model and your guided practice and to do their own independent practice here. Very well done, Emily.